What's going on, guys? I know this is not the this is not an outboard. That's the 25 horsepower Johnson over there. We need to get putting coils on that, but we're not going to get to that today. Also, we have some new subscribers, so thank you very much for subscribing. Today, what we need to work on is outboard hauler, and it's semi-related to outboard, so I decided to show it. This is a 2004 Chevy Silverado. For a little while, I've been having a check engine light, and just kind of trying to chase down what it was, and I think I finally figured out it's the O2 sensor. Like I was saying, this is a 2004 Chevy Silverado. It's got the 5.3 liter V8 in it, and a very common problem with these is the O2 sensor. The O2 sensor will go out and throw a check engine light. Now, it has 4 of them. Bank 1 is going to be the driver's side, which is the left side if you're sitting in the truck, obviously. Bank 2 is going to be the passenger side. Each bank has 2 sensors, upstream and downstream. So upstream is going to be before the cat, downstream is after the cat. All 4 sensors are the same, so it doesn't really matter upstream, downstream when it comes to sensors. They're all interchangeable. Now, it will kick a check engine light code. Like I said, this one was bank 1, sensor 1. And I went to AutoZone to so I could run the scan tool on it because I didn't have a scan tool. Then after that, I was like, this is silly. I need to get a scan tool. So I went on Amazon, and for 30 bucks, I got this one. It's the ThinkOBD 20. Very cheap, but it works very well. This way, you don't have to keep running back and forth to Amazon to O'Reilly's or AutoZone or wherever to keep plugging in your truck once you fix something to see if it took care of the problem. This will pay for itself very, very quickly. Now, a common mistake people make with these is, say, I'm having a check engine light for bank 1, sensor 1. Now, you know, my first thought, and everybody's first thought, is get a new O2 sensor, put it in there, boom, problem fixed. Well, a lot of times it's not fixed, especially what I've been reading a lot. They'll put the new O2 sensor in, clear the codes, go drive it, and it's fine for about maybe the first 5 minutes, and all of a sudden, boom, you got the light again. You run the scan tool, bank 1 sensor, 1 O2 sensor. And you're like, come on. A lot of times what happens is the wires get rubbed on the wiring harness, you know, after the plug on the truck side, and it'll short it out. And so the sensor may not be the actual problem. Again, I'm going to show you how to troubleshoot it to make sure that you've got a bad O2 sensor, or do you just have a wiring problem and need to fix up and find whatever wire it is that's broken. All right, first thing we're going to do is jack this truck up. All right, before we get this up in the air, wheel chocks on the back. Always set the emergency brake and always put the wheel chocks in the back. Make sure you have the jack stand handy too. All right, yes, I am going to wear gloves today, but that's for a good reason. Like I said, we're here in Central Texas, and it is not a very nice day out. This is ice already starting to form on the truck. And like I said, it's 32 degrees. We're not used to this. I know you people up north, you're like, oh, this is nothing. We deal with this for 6 months out of the year. Yeah, we don't. So we deal with it the best we can. All I know is we've already had a 26-car pileup on one of the freeways nearby. So it's going to get ugly if it gets down into single digits. And then the low in a couple more nights is supposed to be 6 degrees. 6 degrees in Texas. We cannot do that. So I don't know how we're going to last, but we'll see how we hold up. Here's our O2 sensor right here. So this is after the cat. There it is right here. So this is after the cat, the downstream. The upstream is going to be up here. So what I did is I swapped sensors to see if the code would follow, and it did follow. Now I'm getting a bank 1 sensor 2 fault. So that would be this sensor right here, the bad one I switched out. So no wiring issue. It doesn't seem like all we have to do is just change out this sensor and we'll be good. What you'll need is an adjustable crescent wrench, or you can get the there's a special tool they make for O2 sensors. You can get it at Harbor Freight for pretty cheap, but if they're not stuck, which these ones are, they came out pretty easy. Just a crescent wrench will work. Alright, that came out pretty easily. Alright, you simply just thread the new one in.
Pretty simple stuff.
That's all left to do, plug it in. So you do the snap, and then you put this little blue safety pin through it so it doesn't come out. And there you go. Then you just stick it back in where it's supposed to go, just like that. And that's it. We're done underneath the truck. All right, so here is the other oxygen sensor. This is the bad one. I mean, it doesn't look terrible, but you know, looks can be deceiving with these things. You don't know what's going on inside of there. None of the wires were worn through on this, so I was kind of surprised at that, but that's good. So the next thing is now we're going to put our code reader on here, and we're going to clear out the codes, and then we're going to run it again to make sure we fixed our problem. Right, let it connect. There we go. Let's read the codes in here. You can see there's the circuit 1, bank 2. That's the old code. If you can read that, I don't know if that'll show up. That's the only code that we have. Let's go into race codes. Are we sure? Yes, we're sure. Please turn ignition on with engine off. All right, easy enough. All right, so we've cleared the codes. So let's go to our data stream. That's what's cool about this ThinkOBD 20. You can go to actual data stream and see live stuff, all off of a $25 scan tool. So see, there's the load on the engine, 3.9. Coolant temperature is 113. It's cold out, so it's not going to get very hot. But all right, O2 sensor 1, it's getting voltage. O2 sensor 2, looks like it's working. So before I noticed these codes didn't pop up right away, it took a little bit of driving, which we're not going to get out and drive today. All right, so we've been running it for a little bit here and still no check engine light. All right, we're going to get back in our scan tool here. Let's read the codes again. No fault codes, all right. Well, I think we may have fixed our issue. I just wanted to add this in here, I know this is a common problem on the O2 sensors, and I have seen people spend money and they didn't need to. That's why I wanted to put it out there for y'all to test the O2 sensors first. Make sure that the problem follows the sensor. So just put it in a different bank, and if the code changes, there's your problem. If it doesn't, then you have the wiring issue, and you don't need to waste your money on the O2 sensors. Also, there's a couple different schools of thought on the O2 sensors. Some people use, you know, AC Delco, and then some people say that AC Delco ones are, you know, junk right out of the box. I went ahead and bought the Denso one. Denso was highly recommended as well. You know, they all have their good and their bad reviews, but Denso had more good than bad. So I went with them, and I'll keep all up to date on how it goes. And here's the Denso. I got it at O'Reilly's, but you can get it off of Amazon. Actually, I think it's a little cheaper off of Amazon. You know, I was already at O'Reilly's. I paid a little bit extra just to make sure it was the right one, because sometimes you never know what you're getting with Amazon. But this is this seems to be a winner, so we'll see how long it lasts. Hopefully it lasts a long time. This truck has 219,000 miles on it, and it runs good. It was my dad's truck, so it's one of those trucks I'll never get rid of. I'm sure me and my brother will keep this going for forever until the body falls apart around it. The other two codes it was having was the NOx sensor, which is gone now. I'm not getting that NOx sensor code, which is kind of weird. And engine coolant temperature. And I almost bought a thermostat in a housing until I got online and watched some videos and found out, hey, don't buy a new thermostat until you check to make sure that your engine coolant temperature sensor is good. And I noticed I had been reading low on the temperature gauge. I just thought, you know, bad connection, didn't really worry much about it, because sometimes it'd shoot up, but I knew it was electrical based on how glitchy the gauge was. But it was telling the ECM that I was running at 160 degrees all the time, so it thought it wasn't getting up to temperature. So we're under the hood of the 2004 Silverado right now. Like I said, it has the 5.3 in it. Right down here, you can see it right here. That plug, that is your engine coolant temperature sensor. And if you do run that code of engine too cold or not getting up to temp, you know, it had something to do with the fuel system too, because it thought the engine was super cold. I just came out here and I jiggled the wiring harness, just right here. Made sure it's plugged in real good. You can also put some dielectric grease in there. I got back in and now the temperature gauge works like it should. No issues whatsoever, and the code went away. So that's all it was. There's just a bad connection with the engine coolant temperature sensor. And I'm glad I checked that before I dropped money on a thermostat or a new sensor or something like that when it didn't really need it. So make sure you troubleshoot your problem all the way, because it'll save you money rather than just throwing parts at it. Kind of like I do with the Johnson. Also, changing the NOx sensors on this thing is not fun. Here's our intake right here. Intake manifold is underneath all that. You have to take all that off, and the intake manifold has to come off, and the two NOx sensors are down there in the valve. So I'm not going to mess with that right now. I'm just going to just let it go. Sometimes it kicks the check engine light on, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll see how long it goes, and maybe it'll just be a stored code in there or just a non-active code, and not really do much. It doesn't really affect the performance of the engine, the NOx sensors, but I mean, they're there for a reason to tell if you have a NOx. So another thing I did on this truck that kind of is related to outboards, if you have a 4-stroke, is I just did the oil change, and I sent the oil off to Blackstone Labs for analysis. Now this is an awesome idea no matter how old your engine is, you know, especially if you just bought it and you know you bought it from somebody, you don't really know how it was treated. You get a free kit from Blackstone Lab. They send it to you. Shipping's already paid. You fill up the oil. Don't do the first little bit or last little bit. You do put the little can under there, or the little bottle they give you in the middle of the stream, and you put it in the prepaid shipping box they give you, and you send it off, and they send a full report to you. They do ask for your credit card information, you know, inside the box before you send it to them, or you can pay online for them to do the analysis, but they send you the kit for free. So in the long run, it could save you a lot of money. It tells you a lot about the health of your engine. You know, we do blood work on ourselves to see how healthy we are, make sure there's nothing wrong. Same exact thing for these engines. Any 4-stroke engine, you know, that you change the oil on. Obviously on the trusty Johnson here, we're not going to, we can't do that, because, you know, 2 strokes, you don't have to worry about it. As long as, just make sure you put the oil in there. That's your oil analysis. Put the oil in the fuel. All right, y'all, so I did get the oil analysis back, and I wanted to go over it with y'all. After you send your oil sample, this is what they're going to email to you. It could take anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks. This one actually wound up taking only a few days after they got it, and they sent me this, which is really fast turnaround. They'll send you an email, and this is an attachment in the email. Here's all the information for the vehicle you sent in and your sample. I was already a customer from a few years ago on a Power Stroke I had. I sent in an analysis, and so you keep the same client ID that you see up there at the top right. On the little form I showed earlier, that's where all the information up top comes from. The unit ID, you can name the, you know, whatever vehicle you're doing, piece of equipment, whatever you're doing the oil analysis on. Unit ID is what you name it on the sheet. So they ask for how long you've gone on this oil change, when you collected the sample, that sort of thing. Then the next box down, you'll see client. That's your own information that's blurred out there. The next section down is the comment section. This is really cool because they really go into detail on each sample and really look it over. So it's not just a generic thing. They're telling you specifically, you know, whoever conducted that analysis, what they found. So this one, obviously, we already knew it had a coolant leak because it had a dry coolant leak, I like to call it. It didn't leak on the ground, but I couldn't even smell it out the exhaust. It was just I was losing coolant and didn't know where. I suspected it was somewhere in the heads because these trucks are notorious for leaking if you have the Castech 706 heads. I looked at the stamping on the head, and sure enough, this has the Castech 706 head. I know now that one of those heads is leaking. So the high levels of potassium and sodium are obviously evidence of coolant getting in the system. Now if you look in this column right here, you can see the numbers that are a little bit darker. Those are the anomalies. those are the abnormally high numbers. And if you look all the way to the right, universal averages, that's what it should be. So aluminum, way high, you know, iron, way high, lead, same thing. The potassium is through the roof, and so is the sodium, and that's because of the coolant leak. So if we look up here again in our comments, it's an abnormal level of silicone too, which they say is from a dirty air filter or a leak somewhere in the intake. These trucks are notorious on the 5.3s, and it may be the 4.8 and the 6.0 too, I don't know, but they're notorious for the intake gaskets leaking. So this probably has an intake gasket leak as well, which is fine, because if I have to change the heads, all that's getting changed anyway. The abnormal amounts of aluminum, iron, and lead are also from the pistons, steel parts, and bearings. Those are extremely high as well, and that's because of the coolant getting in the oil and not doing us any favors. And you can see they list that in the comments up there. All right, as we go down here, we look at all our other numbers, and like I said, in that column you can just see all the everything that they found in your oil. As you send them more samples, you know, from the next oil change, or you want to wait 2 more oil changes to do it, whatever, they just keep going down the line. So this one right here will move 1 to the right. The sample that you sent in will always be the one to the far left here, right next to all the elements. And as you send in more, they will all collect in the unit location averages, and so you can kind of tell what your engine average is, what it's doing, all that good stuff. So now we'll go on to the bottom where it says properties. The viscosities look good, they're right in range where they're supposed to be, so that's good. Flash point looks good, 415, so as long as it's above 375, we're good in that aspect. They found very little fuel in there, which is fine. As long as it's below 2.0, it's fine, and this one was below 0.5, so it was barely a measurable amount. Well, it wasn't a measurable amount. It's there, but it was such a minuscule amount, it doesn't really matter. Now the antifreeze tab, that is where we're kind of screwed. You see it says value should be 0.0. There should be nothing in there. It should be, so even 0.1 is out of range. This is 2.15. 2.15% of the entire sample I sent in is just pure antifreeze. No water was found in the oil, which is good. And insolubles is 0.3, which is fine, because as long as it's below 0.6, we're good. So we'll move down to the TBM, which is total base number. It's a measure of alkaline concentration present in the lubricant. And the alkaline concentration is there to combat the buildup of acids in the oil as the oil breaks down. So you can see it says should be 1.0 or greater. This is 5.6, so it's a very strong rating. It means the alkaline concentration is still very high, and this oil is actually good. If it wouldn't be for the high amount of antifreeze in the lubricant, we could go a lot longer in this oil. So there's nothing wrong with this oil whatsoever. It's just that the antifreeze in there is causing parts not to get lubricated like they should. So the next step for me on this truck is I'm going to go ahead and get new heads. I'm probably going to go with the GM 862 cylinder heads, and the 862 is the casting number that's stamped into them. Like I said, the 706 Castex are the ones that are bad, and sure enough, I looked on the casting on mine, like I said, and they are 706. Whether they're Castech or not, I don't know. I'm gonna bet they probably are. A new set of heads for these things are not too expensive. You can get them anywhere from between 200 to 400 bucks online. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll do the whole, top end gasket set, so that way we don't have any leaks or anything like that. All right, y'all. Thanks for sticking along with me on this little bit different video. I know most of y'all come to this channel for the outboards and stuff like that, but I do appreciate y'all sticking around for something a little bit different. If you like this video, let me know. I'll probably be doing more things with the truck, as stuff happens. Maybe try to save y'all a little bit of money if y'all come across this same thing. I like working on all sorts of engines. It really doesn't matter to me. So it's just what I like doing. I was a mechanic in a past life, and I still love doing it on the side. So there'll probably be more of these videos coming up. If you like it, let me know. Hit the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. We like to have fun on this channel, and we work on just about anything. We mainly work on outboards, just like the Johnson back there, which we're going to throw coils on in another video here coming up, so don't miss that. But stick around, we'll have plenty more coming your way. Thanks for watching.